Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy. I'm a collection management librarian. And I actually want to bring up something as my introduction that we talked about last time. So 2 weeks ago when we had a couple of attendees bring up the book Go Ahead in the Rain by Hanifa Dor-Rakib. And I love that book. And I love that you love that book and that it's something that you brought up. And I just wanted to mention that his other book, They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us, which is a book of essays that also focuses a lot on music. Go Ahead in the Rain is specifically about Tribe Called Quest. But this one is about all the music he listened to as a child and that he listens to now is totally amazing also. So I'm using my introduction to plug his other book. So there you go.
Hi, everyone. My name's Rose. I am a librarian in the Adult Services Department. I work with technology, but I love reading. And I listen and read to all different genres, primarily literary fiction, but I also will dive into genres, so mysteries, romance, suspense, and thrillers. I'm not a huge fan of Westerns. I don't know if that's going to put anybody off, but otherwise, I'm pretty open to all genres.
Hi, I'm Margita. I'm a librarian in adult services as well. I read, watch, listen, pretty much a little bit of everything. At least I try to get a little taste of everything.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dontaná, and I'm a collection management librarian. I read mostly fiction, not as much nonfiction, but when I do read nonfiction, it is essays and poetry.
Thank you all. My name is Alexandra, and I'm the manager of adult services. And I'm going to kind of facilitate a little bit of this discussion today, but mostly try to stay out of the way of our awesome recommendations and discussion. So I'm going to launch a poll right now. We did ask this question previously, but we think it's such a great one that we want to ask again. What have you been doing more of recently? Reading, watching, or listening? So please go ahead and answer that poll. And while attendees are taking that poll, Kathy, could you tell us what was the last thing you read?
Absolutely. So the last book I read is called, well, the last book I read that I want to talk about, let's say that, called The Crying Book by Heather Crissell. And bear with me here. I know The Crying Book, the title might put you off a little bit, but come on, we all need a good cry once in a while, and maybe more than usual right now. But so Heather Crissell is a poet, and what she actually set out to do with this book was to map all of the places that she cried. But what it actually turned into was sort of like a history and exploration of crying through art and literature, history, I think I said that, sorry, poetry, because she's a poet, so she talks about poetry a lot. And it's instances of crying and how crying's depicted. But then she also extends it out to this other side of science and the science behind crying, why we cry and how we cry and what different tears mean. One of the coolest things I learned in this book was that when you cry for different reasons, the actual structural chemical makeup of your tears is different. So like if you cry because you're joyful, it's different than the tears that you cry when you're sad. So it was just really interesting. It was kind of all over the place, but very poetic, and it reads a little bit like poetry. Like it's mostly split up into short paragraphs or just like little snippets. Nothing's really longer than a page or two. And I just loved it. I thought it was moving and touching, and she relates a lot of her own, she's in a very fragile place in her life, and so she relates a lot of her situation of crying and what's bringing her to tears. And I guarantee it will probably bring you to tears at some point, but it might be tears of joy instead of tears of grief. So it's just a lovely little book, and I think Hoopla is available on. Let me check my notes, y'all. Yeah, Hoopla. It's available on audio and ebook. So again, that was The Crying Book It's got a really cool cover too, by Heather Crystal.
Thanks, Kathy. That sounds really interesting. And I'm not like a huge reader of nonfiction. And I was like, oh, yeah. But is it available on audio? That sounds like something I'd listen to.
It is available on audio, on Hoopla Audio. I read it, and I think it would be a little strange on audio, maybe, only because it's small little. But again, if the right reader has it, they probably will make it very beautiful and touching, I would imagine.
Cool, thanks. So the book I want to talk about is one that I haven't read recently, honestly. I read it at least 5 years ago. It came out in 2013. It is called The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer. She's a pretty famous author. She's a huge mode of work. And what I like about this book is that it's everything I love in a fiction book. It has multiple characters and multiple points of view. It takes place over a span of time. And things happen, but things also don't really happen. So it's really detail rich, but it's not like plot driven. It's more detail driven. And so the plot is, starts in the 1970s at a performing arts summer camp. 6 friends meet, and over the course of their life, they kind of drift in and out of each other's lives. Some people have success, some people don't, some people get married, it's just life. But it explores all of these themes like class and money and career and education and kind of just like the everyday minutia of friendship and life. And I think that it's the type of book that I would enjoy reading right now, just because it's so detail heavy and beautiful, and it covers all of these themes. And the friends are really fun. And I think that I heard that they were making a mini series about it, or maybe they did make a mini series, but I have no idea. That just popped into my head right now, so I should look that up for you. But that is The Interestings by Meg Wolitzer.
Thanks, Rose. I'm going to talk about a book that, yes, you probably heard of, but I'm going to do it anyways. I really enjoyed Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved it because it feels like you're in this like VH1 Behind the Music episode. If you remember watching those, I did. And you basically follow this fictional band, Daisy Jones and the Six. You get to like follow them from the beginning, see their successes, see their setbacks. You get to learn about the individual band members because it's done in interview style, which I thought I wouldn't like, but I actually really enjoyed. And I really was into the band leader, Daisy. And there is still a twist, even though this fictional band you're following. And I'm actually going to redo it for Books and Brews, which is a program starting up again in June. I'm going to do the audiobook because it looks like it has a full cast, which I can't wait to try out.
I love full cast audiobooks, so I might get into that with you, Margita.
Oh, me too. And I think Benjamin Bratt might be one of the readers. It has like a few kind of celebrities doing it.
Yes, those are awesome. So the book that I want to talk about for today it's a graphic novel, and it is available on Hoopla. It is called An Embarrassment of Witches by Sophie Goldstein. And it's about these 20-somethings who are trying to figure out what to do with, the rest of their life. It follows 2 best friends as one is very flighty and doesn't really have a plan for her life, and then the other is very grounded, knows what she wants to do, and it's about how they're growing up, essentially. And it was really good. It's a really fast read, and the colors and the art are like really complement the story.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end our poll, which poor listening. No one is listening more, but we are split 50% reading more and 50% are watching more. So that's super interesting to find out. And speaking of watching more, I'm going to launch our second poll shortly, which will be about what are you who are you corn streaming favorites? It's quite the word that we're coining here, corn streaming. Quarantine streaming. So we've got a couple duos for you to vote on. And while we vote on our favorite corn streaming favorites, can you tell us about what is your favorite go-to read, watch, re-listen, or reread when you need something comforting or just something to reread, rewatch, or re-listen? What is your go-to?
So first, I have a quick comment on the interestings, which did anyone happen to read The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer, which came out like 2 years ago? I really liked that one too.
It was excellent.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. So I just want to bring that up, that she has that book also, which was super enjoyable as well. She writes characters very well, I think. Anyways, I don't. So I'm not much of a rereader, to be totally honest. I generally just like things that are shiny and new, so I get super distracted by that. And even things I mean to listen or like read that I'm really excited about get thrown by the wayside because something else new has come up. So rereading is not really my forte. However, I have found that what I tend to reread are books that I read in my childhood that I really loved and that were meaningful to me, or that I just bring me a lot of comfort. And so hilariously, what I have read, I don't even know, a dozen times at least, are the Winnie the Pooh books, like the A.A. Milne original Winnie the Pooh book, The House on Pooh Corner and Winnie the Pooh. I have 1961 editions of them in my house. And they're great. I mean, they're still the most charming, lovable, quiet books you can find. And what I discovered recently was that they were recorded on audio by this famous British actor who I won't remember his name because I didn't know who he was, but I'm sure many people out there do know who he is. And that he did these amazing audiobooks of them, which I would think would be awesome, especially if you're looking for like a family listen. I think it would be great. And literal bonus, they're one of the Hoopla bonus borrows right now. And the bonus borrows means it basically doesn't count against your 30 that you get for the month. So just a little quick tip there, that if you're interested in listening, you can get them as a bonus borrow on Hoopla right now. So Winnie the Pooh, they're amazing. And if you watch like the new cartoons and stuff, cool. You should still listen to the books or read the books.
That's really sweet, Kathy. I love Winnie the Pooh. I sometimes will rewatch the old, like, I don't know when they were out, but they were out when I was a kid. So like in the 1980s cartoons. So that's I love Winnie the Pooh. I'm in the same boat. I don't reread a lot of things. Some things that I will periodically reread are like classics, like To Kill a Mockingbird or Jane Eyre. Just things that I really know the story very well. And like the most obvious reread is like a comfort read for me, which is probably a comfort read for, most of the world, which is the Harry Potter series. I don't think I need to plug it. But 16, this like huge thing happened to our country, and I shut down and only read the Harry Potter series for like most of November and December of 2016, and it brought me great comfort. But one thing that's happening right now, and like Harry Potter, the first book is available on Hoopla and on Media on Demand right now. Like J.K. Rowling made it available to libraries during this time. But if you go on to Pottermore, which is her website, there are celebrities that are reading the first book aloud. So the first chapter, Daniel Radcliffe read it. The second chapter, I don't remember her name, but she played Hermione in the Cursed Child play. And the third actor was Eddie Redmayne. I feel so I don't remember the second chapter.
I think David Beckham's going to do a reading of one.
Oh, is he? That's fun. Yeah, so they're releasing it pretty quickly. I don't think it's taking a week in between. Every couple of days, there's a new narrator on the website. So again, I don't feel like I need to plug Harry Potter, but it's just like a comfort thing. I've heard that a lot of people are like doing Harry Potter movie marathons during this time, which is a fun idea. But something that I'm not good at watching television shows. I take a really, really long time to watch something new because I'm constantly rewatching old shows because I can't handle stress very well. I don't know how, like, I don't watch Game of Thrones or Westworld because I find it all too stressful. So I rewatch old comforts like Parks and Recreation and The Good Place, or like even old things like Mary Tyler Moore I'll watch when it's on, like, or Friends or Seinfeld. So I watch a lot of easy, like, half-hour sitcom comedies. Those are my rereads and rewatches.
I feel like I'm the same. I don't have a lot of rereads. You know, we work in a library. There's always a new book coming out. There's, you know, you want to keep catching up. And so also Harry Potter, which I won't say anything else. Love it, audiobook. But also another childhood favorite, which was Anne and Green Gables. I've read, I mean, she's got a lot of books. I've read like the first about 7. I've seen the not the Netflix one, but the Canadian one, like I don't know how many times to actually get from the library because it's hard to find the Canadian like miniseries of it. And watching is kind of the same. I'll rewatch like old comforting things like Gilmore Girls. I've been rewatching The Office. I'll rewatch like a Pride and Prejudice movie. And actually, Rose, for Jane Eyre, I was supposed to read that actually in high school, but then I went to the foreign exchange program in France and was supposed to read it, and that did not happen.
Oh, it's so good.
No regrets. And so I finally read it, like, I think maybe 4 years ago, I finally read it for the first time. It was really good, but definitely not as 16 in France.
I think I read Jane Eyre for the first and only time, in college, and yeah, that once was enough for me. So I think I'm the same, where that I reread things from childhood, and mine is sort of a problematic fave. Please excuse the dogs if you hear them in the background. Mine is a problematic fave, so it's called Enchanted, and it's by Orson Scott Card.
Yeah.
So Enchanted is it's a Cinderella story, but it takes as sort of its source material old Russian fairy tales. So it has Baba Yaga in it with her house in the woods on chicken legs. And so that's the one that I always think of, like, yeah, I'm going to read that again. But its author is, yeah. For things that I rewatch, I think I've seen Thor Ragnarok, which is the 3rd Thor movie directed by Taika Waititi, like 1,500 times because it's hilarious. I can't stop watching it. Also, it has Tessa Thompson, and that's reason enough for me.
Okay, I'm going to end our poll and share the results. So Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin definitely get the vote.
Of course.
We're streaming favorites.
Carol Baskin.
Yes, if everyone here knows, if with everyone here we can figure out where all of these are from, because I don't know all of these. So I know Joe Exotic and Carol Baskins are on Netflix. Tiger
King.
Mia Warren is Little Fires Everywhere, I believe.
Mia.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Where's it from, Margita?
Little Fires Everywhere. So it would be.
Yeah.
So it could be the book or no. Oh wait, the show. So it'd be
Hulu.
Washington.
Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon.
Okay. And then Johnny Rose and
Moira. Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Oh. And which is also on Netflix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Pop TV, technically.
Marty, Bird, and Ruth.
That's Ozark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And Dolores and Maeve, I know is
Westworld.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, right.
I think out of the quarantine streaming, part of me also thinks I'm not surprised that the Tiger King is the top duo because that was truly of a time of quarantine. These other shows that existed pre this situation, whereas I felt like the Tiger King came out right when this was all starting. So everyone was like, everyone's watched it. Everyone watched it. The whole country was watching the same thing. So Brian's like, that one. So awesome. Thanks everyone so much for participating in our poll. That's great. Speaking of, that's also a great segue though into our kind of last question here for the last few minutes. Is there a character that stuck with you the most that you've recently read or watched or listened to besides Joe Exotic?
I mean, he's pretty hard to get out of your head once you see him in all his glory and lip syncing the songs. Oh God!
With the fake Carol Baskin for his music video.
Yeah. Oh my God, so funny. So there is definitely one, and it's from a YA book actually, and the title is the character's name, Sadie, by Courtney Summers. So Sadie is a really down on her luck teen who has had a rough childhood, rough growing up period. She basically watches her younger sister and tries to shelter her from a lot of this. And her younger sister ends up murdered. And the police just botch it. And Sadie decides she's going to figure out who killed her sister and killed them. So she goes on this cross-country trip, basically trying to figure this out. In the meantime, the story alternates between that and, in the future, a podcast that's pretty much retelling this story, sort of in the vein of like Serial. And I listened to this book, and I highly suggest you listen to it because it's actually done like a podcast if you listen to it. So you get Sadie narrating her story, and then you get the podcast, which like even has like, welcome to episode blah, blah, blah. Our sponsors today are blah, 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 blah. And it's really, really excellently done. The podcast seems like a real podcast. The person narrating Sadie is wonderful. But the reason she sticks with me is because she's such a unique character. She has such a strong point of view. She is a force to be reckoned with. And the book doesn't have a tidy ending. So it's very hard to stop thinking about her after the book ends. And I don't really want to say anything more than that. So Sadie by Courtney Summers, I think it would be great to read too, but as in an audiobook, it was wonderful and really kept me on the edge of my seat.
That sounds really cool, the podcast format and the audio.
Yeah.
So the character that has stuck with me is Jude from A Little Life by Yani Anihana. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. This is a book that probably you don't want to read right now during our quarantine stay-at-home order. It's extremely long, at least 500 pages, and it is heartbreaking, and it like emotionally rips you apart. Every time you think it can't get worse, it does, for this character, Jude. So the book centers around 4 friends who I believe meet in college and then, grow over time. So there's, my bread and butter, my favorite things. And it changes narrator, but it mainly focuses on everybody's relationship to Jude and all of this damage and baggage and hurt that Jude has carried with him his whole life. And then, so you get these flashbacks to what's happened to him in his childhood, things that continue to happen to him in adulthood. He's very successful, with his work, but not so much emotionally. I can't really say more than that, except that I still think about Jude. He is just, I don't know, so strong and so fragile, and I want to hug him. I want to just be his friend and hug him and get him help, because he's just so much and so heartbreaking. So that's Jude from A Little Life by Anihana.
I just want to say it was really interesting to watch both Dontaná and Margita when Rose was saying, this might not be a book to read right now. Both of them were like, no, do not read that. That's not
Don't do it.
Not right now. Not right now.
No, not for right now.
I just always think about Jude.
Someone had to pick you up off the floor if you read it.
Go ahead, Margita. Thank you.
I feel like I am going in a completely different direction. Those were like beautiful, like serious books. And I'm going more along the lines of what the poll got #1, Joe Exotic. Like that type. A character that recently stuck out, which is weird because it's going to be a nonfiction, is there was that HBO documentary McMillions, which followed the McDonald's scandal. And there was this FBI agent, I think his name was Frank, but when they showed him, I thought, this must not be true. He can't be an FBI agent based on how he talks and acts. He really even talked about him, so I'm like, okay, it must be real. And like he came, for example, in a full gold suit to meet McDonald's reps, golden fries. And I thought, I want to know more about you. And I think let's say it's Frank. Frank could talk to a wall and get the wall to talk back. And that's the most recent, like, I just want to know more.
In a gold suit, though.
Gold suit. And I love they show his boss saying, I was so mad when he came in that I couldn't believe it. Here as the FBI to talk to Donald. Like, why? And of course, he would own a gold suit. Who owns gold suit?
Wait, you guys don't own a gold suit?
No.
Could have worn it today.
Now I feel like I need one. So as all of y'all are talking, I'm trying to think of who. Like, I have like a bunch of characters in my head now.
That was just
that
coffee one.
But so I'm gonna go with it's a cast of characters actually, and I'm going to completely misremember all of their names. But the book is called Cantoras, and it's by Carolina de Robertis, and I don't know if it's on Hoopla or Media on Demand, so I'm sorry for that. But it's about this group of women, or 5 women, in Uruguay under a dictatorship, and they're all lesbians or bisexual, but they don't always have words for that, so they use a euphemism called, and it's cantora, which means so cantor is a singer in Spanish, and a cantora would be a lady singer. So if you can see where that's going, that's why they use it as a euphemism. But the story and why these women kind of stay with me and I think about them a lot is that they were really committed to being who they were, no matter if, regardless of the fact that they could have been disappeared for how they dressed and who they loved and what their politics were at the time. Yeah, it really stuck with me, and it's hard to explain. So go read Cantoras if you can, and I will recommend it in print when we get back to the library.
Thanks, everyone. We have just 1 minute left, so this is perfect timing. We're going to be following up for all of our attendees with an email, with a survey, and a list of all of the books and media we've been discussing. So please look for that in your inbox. But I also wanted to just let everyone know about Read to Order, which if you go to our website, oppl.org/read to order, all one word, you can access. Rose, do you want to tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so it's a virtual reader's advisory interaction where you, the patron, will fill out a form about what you enjoy reading, some authors you like, and then things you don't like. And then it comes to myself and Margita and then 2 other people, and we will recommend titles based off of what you've told us. So Read to Order. We usually email back within a couple of days. We give direct links to the catalog and if it's available online. And it's just really fun interactions. We've had a good amount since the building has been closed, and we just love talking about books and recommending books. So we're always super happy when people send us their requests.
And until we open, we are certainly for our recommendations focusing on things that are downloadable through our catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both. So yeah, if you want a personalized recommendations for you on what to read next, please visit our Read to Order, which is again oppl.org/read-to-order, all one word. And we'll put that in our follow-up email as well. I want to thank everyone for coming today, all of our attendees, and thank you all of our librarians.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.